Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the 1989 movie Dead Poets Society, starring, among others, Robert Sean Leonard, love him so much, also known as Neil Perry. Sorry. This is basically part one in what I'm hoping will be a series of videos documenting my application process to various colleges. Knowing me, it will probably not happen. It will probably just be this one video. But I would like to do another video where I make Neil's crown from this movie, because it's currently all I've been thinking about. I already went to Michael's and got the supplies, so I just need to figure out how to do that and when I have the time. If anyone besides me in the future is seeing this, trigger warnings for spoilers for the movie and discussions of suicide. I've fallen hard for this film. Somehow, about a week ago, I looked up the movie, read the Wikipedia article, researched the cast, saved at least 4 deep dive videos to my Watch Later playlist, and perused the AO3 fandom. What's weird is I can't even remember what exactly started it. I think it was some sort of edit thing I saw, but anyways, it feels so fitting that this movie became known to me. I'd heard of it before, but never really researched, as I'm applying to college and wrestling with this sense of self. At first glance, this movie and I have absolutely nothing in common, from the fact that it was made in the 80s and set in the 50s to the glaring detail that it centers around an all-boys school in Vermont. And lastly to the fact that they're required to wear uniforms, and now I'm finding it annoyingly difficult to copy its aesthetic for fall. I'll find a way. Looking closer, me and Neil Perry appear to have even less in common, especially at the beginning of the movie. He's Harvard-bound, setting off for med school on a path he's known since childhood, while I'm applying to precisely 0 Ivies with the major I threw myself into 8 months ago. I'm lucky enough to have a very loving relationship with my parents, and his is less than ideal, to put it lightly. I've never been as stifled as he was at school, taught to conform, and I've also never been a boy in the 50s with all the crazy and sexist norms that came with that. It was only after Neil shouted Carpe Diem that everything began to click for me. To be clear, to me, Neil's storyline in Dead Poets Society quite clearly explores the idea of being queer but not able to express that part of oneself. Someone, maybe on Tumblr, that I unfortunately don't remember, made a really good point that if his storyline was simply about acting, he would have played Hamlet and won over his father with, his monologues. But instead, he plays Puck, this effeminate literal fairy, and his father kind of loses his mind. Speaking as a queer teen fighting to pursue acting, Neil Perry broke my heart. And I'm determined to end my year at a place that his father and society never let him fully travel to. Additionally, Neil and I are both only children, which means while we aren't victims to sibling comparisons, we are sometimes suffocated by being our parents' sole focus. All the pressure goes on to us. We want to make them proud because we feel we're their only chance, that we should heed their every word for fear of making them think they messed up on us. It was unsettling to think about that in some incredibly alternate universe, Neil Perry's story could have been mine. I'm lucky that ending my life because of a lack of support toward my identity or my passions has never been an issue, but for so many it still is. For some background, my name is Violet, I'm queer, and I'm applying to colleges this year as a musical theater / just theater major. This past spring, I was terrified of falling behind, so once I decided music theater was what I wanted to do with my life, I threw myself into research and assembling a list. Months later, in July, my parents finally realized the scope of what I was attempting. They went from full support, taking me to visit schools and looking at performing art departments, to what felt like no support, sitting me down and telling me that while they were fine with me majoring in theater, they didn't think I was ready for musical theater program auditions, that it would take too much time, and they didn't want me to do it. I left the room. I couldn't talk to them anymore. As a side note, please remember that I am a very emotional teenager, and this is my side of things. I love my parents very much. I was devastated. I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me, and I fell into a slump, unable to get any college stuff done. I was alternating between angry and sad at the idea that they didn't believe in me. If I were to draw a parallel between my life and Neil's, it would have to be at the moment where Neil decides to audition for a local production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. He shouts to his roommate, Todd, "For the first time in my whole life, I know what I want to do, and for the first time, I'm gonna do it. Whether my father wants me to or not, carpe diem." Carpe diem, of course, meaning seize the day. And that hit me. That's me. That's how I felt when I silently continued with my college research and brought up audition songs to my voice teacher. That's me when I eventually negotiated with my parents and settled on a compromise where I am still allowed to pursue theater, as I always was, luckily, but I'm now also allowed to audition for a select number of musical theater programs. While my story has an upward trajectory, what scares me is that Neil soon hit many more obstacles. Rationally, I know it's unlikely my parents will suddenly turn incredibly homophobic and uncaring, but to see someone with your same hopes and dreams lose everything in such a violent way is a blow. Because when Neil's father finds out about the show, everything starts to go wrong for Neil Perry. He talks to his English teacher, Mr. Keating, the one that originally said Carpe Diem, and he says, "I'm trapped." He doesn't know what to do because he wants to make his father proud, but to do that he can't do what he wants. It's opening night of the show, and he performs against his father's wishes. His father shows up and drags him home afterward. He tries to reason with his parents, tries to get them to listen to him. He tells them the heartbreaking truth. I was good, I was really good. And he was! He has so much talent, so much joy, so much potential, and his parents just won't listen. Eventually, he says, "I've got to tell you how I feel," but they start shouting at him, saying, like, "What do you feel?" Something. Anyway, and then eventually he says nothing. Basically, "I feel nothing." Even when he tries to tell them how he feels, he realizes it's no use. Neil goes numb and resigns himself to a fate. His parents think he's given in, and they go to sleep. The audience realizes he's given up. That night, Neil Perry kills himself in his father's office with his father's gun. Neil Perry, Puck, actor, queer, friend, son, passionate, driven, senior in high school, kills himself because he feels he has no other choice. And in between all of this, he's just a teen, and he talks with his friends, he throws desk sets around, he struggles with his math homework, and he just looks so full of joy after opening night, it physically hurts me to see him and know what happens next. I will not let this happen to me. Although I may not get into any theater programs, Neil Perry never even got to apply. I'll make sure I get my chance. With the life I've been lucky enough to lead, I owe it to him to try.